Hey there, everybody. I suppose you're wondering what I'm doing. Well, I'm putting my leads back in my multimeter. I took them out during the last movie. Sorry about that. How y'all doing today? Today we are out here doing some testing and service on the Can-Am Spyder RSS, and I'm doing a portion where I promised that I would discuss why and how you shouldn't be reliant on a battery tender, especially in summer conditions. But the main purpose of this video is to discuss how you can test your stators at home. When you're starting to run into electrical issues, I'm just going to give a brief synopsis on this. Now, what happens a lot is as the stator wears, stators are very more prone to wear. Stators are the oldest form of an alternator basically that you have. They're an AC system. They run at about 75 volts. They send a triad or a three-phase signal of 75 volts to a rectifier regulator. The rectifier regulator then converts the rectifier portion to DC voltage, breaks that down to about 14 volts when running or going down the road, maybe 14.5, and then regulates it to that. Hence the term regulator or rectifier regulator, or what we popularly call the RR in the mechanical trade. So we went through the last portion where I showed you where to find the stator. Stator's on the left side of the motor. You can see it's behind the clutch on this model. And I'm not going to get down there again, but the wiring will demonstrate that it comes from the left side of the motor. That's where it's located. That clutch has to be removed on the SC portion to be able to get to it if you have to replace it. And then down here in the engine compartment, I've taken off the top portions and moved them back. You can see that harness laying on top of the blockish looking thing with another harness connected to it, a black one at the bottom. That is your 3-wire, 3-phase, 75 volt signal that comes off of your stator located down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the trike, and yes we can. You do not need the voltage being produced by the stator to run it. I can run on battery power. And we're going to do a voltage test on that little doohickey down there. Now I'm going to do my best to set up a camera where you guys can observe, but it's a little difficult in these tight quarters, so bear with me. Should be able to get something close to it. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to make sure that my meter is set to the proper voltage. I want to be on DC or AC voltage, so household range is acceptable. And I want to be in the 200 volt range because I'm looking for about 75 volts. Now, I can go ahead and start the vehicle at this point. So I'm going to do that. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm sure you saw the change in light and you heard everything whiz over and all that. The vehicle can start. So carefully be with me while we do this, and I'll show this as best as I can. I'm going to mount this guy down here and reach down with my hand, and I'll do as best as I can with this. Hold on. So down here, I explained earlier, I need to explain. We need to do a pairing test for this. Now, there are 3 possible pairs. This is a pair, 1. This is a pair, 2. And then the outers is the 3rd pair. You're testing each phase to make sure that each phase produces approximately 75 volts AC. If it's not, if it's down below 50, you're not producing enough AC to produce a strong enough signal to charge your battery. So we need to check this as well as the resistance, which we did in the last video. I'm suspecting this is going to be fine because as long as you have resistance and they're in those values, you should be getting proper voltage. Let's go ahead and start now. See, told you it run. So we're going to go to the first pair. Showing about 20 volts AC. That's a little less than I expected. Where is that decimal? I gotta read it out here, folks, sorry. I'm showing 18 volts from that pair. I'm showing 18 volts from that pair. And I'm showing 18 volts from that pair. So, as I stated, I gotta make sure I'm in the proper range. that again. No, that was AC. I think I'm supposed to hear though. On the AC side now. Yep. We're running about 16 volts on that pair, about 16 volts on that pair, and again, about 16 volts on this pair. I don't have a proper fluke, and I swear I'm not in the proper range. That's AC. One thing I want to know, look at the voltage being produced. Nothing's coming from that signal. Now I'm going to plug the harness back in and then watch what happens. Boom. Now that the AC is back, it is now producing what it should for signal, and it'll continue to charge up because I was actually draining the battery running without that stator on. So the major difference that I noted on the Can-Am was it uses a different voltage range in its stators. Now I'm used to usually seeing 50 to 75 volts. This one's showing, and I don't know if it's because my Gardner bender is a weird meter. I'm going to check it and validate it with another meter later just to be sure. But this meter is showing that I am producing roughly 20 volts AC per phase. And again, as long as you're getting, it depends on the design, the electronics behind it, the electronics behind what you've got going on in your RR, so on and so forth, your input outputs. But modern MOSFET based systems do not need the strong voltage that you used to use. So it's not surprising me to see a lower voltage AC rated stator on there. Again, every phase matched, so that's the thing that you look for. One phase will fail, and you want everything to be within balance. You know, your three phases have to match to be able to create a nice healthy signal through the RR process. So this RR is taking down roughly 20 volts AC, breaking it down and converting it to roughly 14 volts DC all the time. And we saw that because the voltmeter was down to way below 12 volts. I was sucking voltage off the battery, and then when I plugged in the regulator rectifier, the voltmeter jumped back up. So I didn't need to hook up the meter to show how that works. So that's it for this phase of testing, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll take it from there. I've got one more I'm going to do today, and that one is on a common issue that you run into with motorcycles. That's your controls. We'll talk to you in a little bit. Thank you for watching. Peace.